In this class, we are going to continue our discussion of the male reproductive system. And in the male reproductive system, we have studied about certain structure, that is the scrotum, testis, epididymis, vas deferens, as well as the ejaculatory duct. So if we talk about the passage of sperm, then this is the last structure, that is the urethra is responsible for carrying the sperms or the semen from the ejaculatory duct to the outside. So this is the last part of the passage of sperm, but this is not the last structure that we have to study in male reproductive system. The main and the last structure that we have to study is the male external genitalia, and that is the penis. So as far as passage of the sperm is concerned, this is the last part, but we also have to study about the male external genitalia, that is the penis, and also about various accessory glands like seminal vesicle, prostate gland, and also the bulbourethral gland. So let's start this urethra. So first of all, this urethra is a part of excretory system, that is the kidney, bladder, and that system. So this urethra is also responsible for passage of urine, but we are studying it here in reproductive system because it is also responsible for passage of sperm. So it has dual function, that is passage of urine as well as passage of sperm or semen, you can say. So it has common passage, it is common passage for sperms and urine. Now, very important difference between male and female urethra is that male's urethra is pretty much longer as compared to the female urethra. Male urethra is around 19 to 20 centimeters long, whereas the female urethra is around 2 to 4 centimeters long. So you can imagine how much difference is there between the urethra of males and urethra of females. So the male urethra is pretty much longer as compared to the female urethra. Now in urethra, we normally differentiate it into 4 parts. That is the urinary urethra, then the prostatic urethra, then the membranous urethra, and at last the longest part of urethra, and that is called as penile urethra. So these are the 4 parts of urethra that we normally differentiate. So let's start from the first part of the urethra, and that is called as this urinary urethra. So as you can see from the name, urinary urethra, so this urethra carries only the urine, not the sperms. That is why it is called a urinary urethra. And in urinary urethra, it is that portion of the urethra which arises from the bladder, that is urethra arises from the neck of the urinary bladder and up to the point where the ejaculatory duct joins this, that is, we know what is ejaculatory duct. Ejaculatory duct was formed by union of vas deferens and the seminal vesicle duct. So these two structures join to form the ejaculatory duct, and from the urinary bladder, the portion of the urethra between the junction between ejaculatory duct and the urethra and between the urinary bladder, that portion is called as urinary urethra. So it carries only the urine, not the sperm, because the sperm duct or the ejaculatory duct joins after this, and from where the sperm duct or ejaculatory duct joins the urethra, that portion which lies inside the prostate gland is called as the prostatic urethra or prostatic urethra. So first of all, it is the portion of urethra between urinary bladder and point of junction between urethra and ejaculatory duct. It carries urine only. So after that, there is the prostatic urethra. So prostatic urethra is that part of the urethra which lies inside or which passes through the prostate gland. So this is also the first part of the urinogenital tract, and in the last class we had studied about what is this urinogenital tract or urogenital tract. So basically it is the first part of urogenital tract, and it is formed by, or it is rather inside the prostate gland, or it passes through the prostate gland, which is called as prostatic urethra. And now it is that part of the urethra that lies inside the prostate gland. Inside the prostate gland here means it passes through the prostate gland. From the point, it is joined by the ejaculatory duct. So you know where it is joined by the ejaculatory duct, because we have studied about the ejaculatory duct in our previous class, and it is also the first part of urinogenital tract. So this is about the prostatic urethra. After the prostatic urethra, the structure that we have to study is the membranous urethra. Now it is uncovered part of the urethra and it lies between the penis and between this prostate gland. So it is membranous, or it is very thin, or its wall is thinner as compared to the other parts. So it is also called as membranous urethra. So it is that portion of urethra which lies between prostate gland and penis. And ultimately we come to the last part, which is also the longest part of the penis. So the penile urethra is the longest part of urethra, and it lies inside something called as corpus spongiosum. So after this urethra, we are going to study about a structure called penis. So in that penis part, we are going to see that the penis is composed of three bundles of erectile tissue, which are called as corpus cavernosa and corpus spongiosum. So in the penis, it is inside the corpus spongiosum, not inside the corpus cavernosa. So we are going to study about corpus spongiosum and corpus cavernosa in the penis part. So this urethra that is inside the penis, it is inside the corpus spongiosum part of the penis, not the other two bundles which we are going to study later in this class. Now we come to the sphincters of the urethra. So these sphincters are rather regulatory structures which control the opening and closing of the urethra. So that is what is the function of your sphincter. You must have studied about certain sphincter which is called as ileocecal sphincter, or the cardiac sphincter, or the pyloric sphincter of the stomach. So this is also a sphincter. So the function of a normal sphincter is to regulate the opening and closing of a certain part. So here also we have two types of this sphincter. So there are two types of this sphincter, and both are opposite to each other. So the first part of the sphincter, or the first sphincter that we have to study, is the involuntary sphincter, which is the internal sphincter. So the internal sphincter is involuntary. We cannot control the opening and regulating. That is what is meant by involuntary, and it is formed of smooth muscle fibers. So in 11th class, in the muscles chapter, you must have studied about three types of muscle, that is the striated muscle, the normal smooth muscle, and cardiac muscle. So you must have studied over there that smooth muscles are involuntary. So it is formed of smooth muscles, and in 11th class, you know, smooth muscles are involuntary. And where it is found at the neck of the bladder, just where the urethra arises from the bladder. This is where it is present. And now we come to the external sphincter. Now this external sphincter is composed of striated. These are also called as striped muscles. So in 11th class, you know that the striated muscles are voluntary muscle. That is, we can regulate this sphincter. That is, we can regulate the external sphincter, but we cannot regulate the internal sphincter. So it is voluntary, formed of striated muscle, and where it is found in the membranous part of the urethra. So both have their own location. It is at the neck of the bladder, it is at the membranous part. It is voluntary, it is involuntary. It is formed of striated and it is formed of smooth muscle. So these are the main points over here. So these are the 3 points that we have to remember about the sphincter, that is external, internal, involuntary, voluntary, smooth and striated, and their location, that is neck of the urinary bladder and also the membranous part of the urethra. So these are the two types of sphincter in our syllabus or in our urethra, but females have only one sphincter. Females don't have this two sphincter. Now we had studied about in previous class something called as male sex accessory duct, and here we are going to see that epididymis, vas deferens and urethra, these three structures are also called as excretory urinogenital ducts. So these three parts, epididymis, vas deferens and urethra, are collectively called as excretory genital ducts. So these three structures are together called as excretory genital duct, and in our previous class we had studied about something called male sex accessory duct. So male sex accessory duct included retitestis, vasa efferentia, epididymis, and also the vas deferens. And here we see epididymis to urethra, that is to the outside. So why it is called as excretory genital ducts? Because it is leading to the outside, that is this urethra part is leading the sperm to the outside, that is at the tip of the penis. So that is why it is called as, these three structures are together called as excretory genital duct. So according to the passage of sperm, we have completed the structures, because this urethra part and especially the penile urethra part is the last part of passage of sperm, but we have not completed the structures of the male reproductive system. So now we will study about the male external genitalia, and that is called as penis. Now we would study about the male external genitalia or the male external copulatory organ, that is the penis. So it is the copulatory organ, that is a male uses this organ to perform the sexual activity or copulation with a female. It is also called the male external genitalia. So this organ is the copulatory organ in case of human males. Now if we see the structure of this penis, we see that it is composed of three cylindrical masses of erectile tissue, and out of those two are called as corpus cavernosa and one is the corpus spongiosum. So if we see their position, then the corpus spongiosum is sort of ventral and the corpus cavernosa is sort of dorsal, that is towards the upper side in terms of the normal anatomy of the body, but normally their positions are dorsal and ventral. So mediolateral means somewhere like middle, and medioventral means somewhere in the middle and the ventral side, and the normal dorsolateral means towards the side and also the dorsal surface or the dorsal side. So we can see that three cylindrical masses of erectile tissue from the diagram. This is the transverse section of penis. You can see these three sort of a cylindrical masses, and out of these two are the corpora cavernosa, that is corpora is the plural of corpus. So corpora cavernosa, two are corpora cavernosa and one is corpus spongiosum. So these total three cylindrical masses of erectile tissues are present. Now the meaning of erectile tissue is that in certain conditions these tissues can become hard due to flow of blood, which we will see that later. So erectile means these tissue could become harder as compared to their normal occurrence or the normal appearance. Now the glans penis, the glans penis is the first part or the forward part or the tip of the penis, which is an expanded part. And now these three, out of these three cylindrical masses, the glans penis is formed only of the corpus spongiosum. So glans penis is not formed by the corpora cavernosa, it is only formed of the corpus spongiosum, that is the tip of the penis is enlarged, is called as glans penis, and which is formed only of corpus spongiosum. Now this glans penis, this is the glans penis, you can see here, this is the penis enlarged tip or the end of the penis which is enlarged. Now this prepuce, this glans penis is covered by a loose fold of retractile skin, and that is called as prepuce, or that is also called as foreskin. So this glans penis is covered by the foreskin or the prepuce. Now the penile urethra is contained inside the corpus spongiosum. You can see from the diagram the urethra, that is the penile part. So we have just studied about the last part of urethra, that is the penile urethra, and you can see from the diagram that the penile urethra is contained inside the corpus spongiosum. This is the ventral view of the penis. From here also, if we see the transverse section or the TS of the penis, you can see the penile urethra and it is contained inside the corpus spongiosum, and also these on the two sides are the normal corpora cavernosa that we have just seen. So the penile urethra is contained inside the corpus spongiosum, not inside the corpus cavernosa. Now the three cylindrical masses are embedded in a dense connective tissue called tunica albuginea. You can see here what is tunica albuginea. So all these three erectile tissues, that is the corpora cavernosa and corpus spongiosum, these are embedded inside these dotted tissue which is called as tunica albuginea. Now these three cylindrical erectile masses are contained in network of sinuses which get filled with blood during erection of penis. Now these three structures that you are seeing here, there are various blood sinuses or blood cavities which are present over there, and when the penis undergoes erection due to sexual stimulation or due to certain other activities, then these blood sinuses present in the corpora cavernosa and corpus spongiosum get filled and they get stiff. Therefore the penis becomes erect. That is why the penis is said to be composed of erectile tissues. Why these are erectile? Because these have blood sinuses which get filled with blood during erection of the penis. Now the glans penis has a slit like opening. Now you see the transverse section and see the glans penis. So here a small opening, that is a slit like opening, is present, and that is called as urogenital aperture. So from here urine as well as the semen will come out. So this is known as the urido or urogenital aperture. So this was about penis. The main points to remember here is these three tissues, that is the corpora cavernosa and spongiosum, tunica albuginea, and you can see from the transverse section as well as the ventral view of the penis what is composed of. And obviously every living tissue has blood supply and nerve supply. So obviously nerve would be there, and obviously dorsal vein would be there, and dorsal artery would be there. So these blood vessels are to supply nourishment and remove the waste. It is very much obvious here. Now one thing to remember here is that prepuce or foreskin is retractile. That is, this prepuce or foreskin could be pulled back and then it could be taken back to its original position. So this prepuce or foreskin is retractile, that is, it could be pulled back and could be taken back to its original position. Now these are the main point that we have to remember here. Now this was the male external genitalia, and when we talk about the main structures of the male reproductive system, then with this we have completed the main parts of the male reproductive system. Now we have to study about the various glands like seminal vesicle, bulbourethral or prostate gland that are assisting in the maturation or development of sperm, or maybe their conduction, or there are various other functions of those seminal vesicles or the various glands that we have to study. So this was the last part of the male reproductive part, and now we would study the glands which are associated with the male reproductive system.